Hello, everyone. My name is Kwarteng Sarfo, and I am an NHS doctor currently working in the UK. I attend the London Ghana SDA Church, and before I start, I just want to say a massive thank you to the organizers for providing me this platform to speak about men's health. As you can see from our screen today, we're going to be talking about the prostate, okay? When I was given this task of talking about men's health, I thought this would be a suitable angle to approach the topic, especially considering that prostate-related issues affect a lot of our Black men. So today, what we're going to be talking about is the prostate, what it does, where it is found, things that can be found or felt by an individual when things go wrong, two conditions that you need to be aware of, and also things that you can do to reduce your likelihood of getting prostate-related issues. So we move on. So the reason why I'm doing this particular presentation is essentially prostate issues affect pretty much all men. Unfortunately, it tends to affect, at a higher degree, Black men. And as a result, I decided to carry out this particular presentation because it is something that does affect our community. Prostate cancer, UK states that 1 in 4 Black men will have some sort of prostate-related issues, including prostate cancers, compared to 1 in 8 men, generally speaking. So if you're a Black male, you're above the age of 45, you're most likely to have prostate-related issues, including prostate cancers, compared to anyone else from a different ethnic background. So that's the main reason why I decided to focus on this topic, because it is something that does affect our community. So let us begin. What is the prostate? Now, the prostate is actually an organ found at the bottom of your penis. Okay, so we're not talking about the testicles. It is an organ, is somewhat a walnut-shaped or walnut-shaped sized organ at the base of the penis, and it serves 2 key functions, okay? And all of these 2 functions are to do with sex. So the first one is to allow reproduction or sex to happen more smoothly by creating the fluid in which sperm or semen travels through. Okay, so the reason why sperm or semen is able to travel through some sort of fluid is as a result of the prostate. Additionally, the prostate has the great job of neutralizing the vagina. The vagina tends to have a pH that's not compatible with the sperm that does enter there. So by having the prostate produce this particular fluid, it neutralizes the vagina, allowing the sperm to carry out its job of fertilization, right? Now, the reason why the prostate can be such an issue is because of where it is based. As I said before, the prostate is based right at the base of the penis. It is actually underneath the bladder itself. Now, the bladder is the tank or the container for urine, and it has a direct link to the outside world by the tube or the pipe that goes from the bladder to the outside world called the urethra. Okay, now the urethra is responsible for passing urine out to the outside world. Now, if you have an issue with the prostate, because it's situated right at the base of the bladder, it can cause a lot of problems, and which we're going to find out next. So what can happen when the prostate becomes an issue? All right. Now, this is a common finding, especially with our elderly generation or elderly men. They tend to describe issues with passing water or passing urine as they increase in age. And some of the symptoms that they tend to describe include difficulty starting to go to the toilet or starting to pass urine. They're having to strain a bit more than they usually would. And essentially, when the urine does come out, they might comment that it's a weaker stream, so it's not as powerful, it's not hitting the back of the toilet or the...
Dr. Sarfo Kwarteng and Moten Nkano, where Odiafo Ewo UK or Kwasori London Ghana SDA Asafumu. Efo Nkwantabisen, Fonds Ministries. You have me bois na fe yadiaba ye kum kasa ma yenyina yate ne ye ka no anadufen ase ne ye ka ho asem no eye prostate anase prostate cancer yade a edi emema enya enye oma Na deɛ nti a ɔpa sɛ ɔpɛ sɛ ɔka wei ho asɛm no ɛne sɛ ɛyɛ ade a yɛn abibifoɔ no ɛtaa ha yɛ paa yie. Anadwofɛn yɛdwene ho na yɛhu sɛ prostate no koraa no ɛne deɛn ɛho na yɛbɛhu wɔ nipadua mu ɛdɛn na ɛyɛ ɛwɔ nipadua no mu nneɛma mmienu bi a ɛsɛ sɛ yɛhunu fa prostate no ɛho. Afei sɛ ɛkɔba sɛ yɛ prostate no anya ɔhaw nso a dɛn na ɛbɛma yɛhu sɛ ɔhaw anaa nsonsansoɔ bɔne bi aba mu. Afei nneɛma bɛn na yɛbɛtumi ayɛ a yɛbɛtumi de abɔ yɛn ho ban sɛ bɛyɛ a yɛnkuta hwɛnhwɛn anaasɛ yɛntɔ saa ɔfena yi mu. Nokwasɛm ne sɛ wohwɛ abibifoɔ mu a sɛ woba UK titiriw a sɛ woyi nipa a wɔnyɛ abibifoɔ no mmarima nwɔtwe bi a wobɛnya emu nipa baako a ɔnya saa yadeɛ yi. Nanso sɛ woba yɛn abibifoɔ mu a nipa 9 biara no wobɛnya emu baako a ɔnya saa yadeɛ no. Mpɛn bebree ɛberɛ a mmarima yɛnyini kakra titiriw firi mfeɛ 45 ɛkɔ no na afei yɛahyɛ aseɛ ne yɛ complaini dwonso mu ɔhaw ahodoɔ na ayɛ asɛm kɛseɛ ama yɛn. Prostate na ankasa no ne size na ɛte sɛ walnut na prostate no yɛhunu wɔ yɛdwonso twa no ase ɛba sɛbe yɛ bɛma mu no ɛba baabi a yɛhunu yɛ bɛma no. Saa prostate ɔyɛ adwumaso mmienu bi a ɛsɛ sɛ yɛhyɛ no nso nanso ne nyinaa fa ɛna anaasɛ nhyiamudie ɛho. Deɛ di kan prostate no ɛna ɔproduce biribi a ɛfrɛ sɛ semen. Semen no ayɛ te sɛ menka no yɛkom kasa ɛbɛte aseɛ sɛ ayɛ te sɛ kaa ɛno na sperm no anaa yɛn kwammoa no ɔtena mu de tu no kwan ɛberɛ a yɛne ahokafoɔ adi nhyiamu no semen no ɛna sperm no tena mu de tu kwan sɛ bɛyɛ a ɛbɛkɔ yɛ yerenom ho na afei nyinsɛn ne awo atumi aba. N'adwuma a yɛdi kan no. Afei ɔsan ɛboa ɛma yɛnya biribi a ɛfrɛ sɛ pH a ɛno no ne sɛ yɛmfa sɛ acid bi anaa sɛ biribi a nyame ayɛ a sɛbi esiesie ɛma wɔn ase ɛma wɔn ase no yɛ kamakama sɛ bɛyɛ a ɛno nso so wɔn ne wɔn ahokafoɔ di nhyiamu a wɔn ho ankwammoa no anaasɛ sperm no ba a ɛbɛtumi atena hɔ akyɛ na wɔn anwu na afei kosi sɛ wɔn nso bɛtumi atu wɔn kwan akɔfa ɔbaa no kɔsua na afei sɛ awurade gyina akyire a nyinsɛn apie mu na afei akɔdane awoɔ. Saa adeɛ wei no sɛ ɔhaw ba mu a nsusuaso a ɛbɛba no yɛbɛtoa so. Dr. Sarfo Kwarteng.
Back of the pan is maybe dribbling as well. That is a common feature when there's an issue with the prostate. Also frequency and urgency. Now the reason why frequency and urgency occurs, if you look at the picture on the right hand side of your screen, the prostate, when it enlarges, actually reduces the space in which the bladder has to work. Okay, so if you reduce the space in which the bladder has to work, you essentially reduce the amount or the quantity in which the bladder can hold. And this therefore leads to frequency or individuals going to the toilet more frequently, and also an urgency, which is essentially when they feel the urge or the need to go to the toilet, they need to go there and then. Okay. In addition to this as well, there might be issues with going late at night. So usually during the night period, people who don't have prostate-related issues are able to hold onto urine or a larger quantity of urine. But if the prostate is of an issue, it can actually reduce the size of the bladder, meaning that you have a less space to hold urine, and also you're going more frequently as well. And this will be, worse in that nighttime as well. And as I mentioned before, straining to urinate, and also the sensation that they haven't actually completed passing urine. So they would go or have difficulties going, and when they finish, it still feel like there is some urine left in their bladder. Okay, these are all common symptoms or common signs that occur with patients or with individuals with prostate-related issues. All right, so these are the things that you should be keeping in mind or you should be thinking the prostate might be an issue if you have these symptoms, all right? But also be aware that many other conditions can also cause these symptoms. So if you have a waterwork infection or urine infection, some of these symptoms might occur, such as going to the toilet more frequently, as well as passing urine at night. However, you have to also understand that with urinary infection, you might have things such as a burning sensation when you're passing urine. So there will be key symptoms that would differentiate between a prostate-related issue and let's say, an infection, all right? Now, of course, if the bladder is reduced in size and its outlet is essentially cut off, you can actually cause lower belly pain. All right. And this is usually as a result of the bladder filling in size. So as the bladder fills more and more in size and the urine can't go anywhere, it basically increases in size upwards. Okay. So if it's increasing in size upwards, the next closest organ is your abdomen or your belly, which then results into lower belly pain. And of course, infection love static things. So infection or bugs love to grow in areas where there isn't a lot of movement. So if you have urine that's held in the bladder because it has nowhere to go because of the enlarged prostate, the bugs will love this because there's no swishing of the urine. The urine is not being passed out frequently, and therefore they grow, and then you can then develop a urinary tract infection. That's why a lot of the time when we were younger, we were told or advised not to hold on to urine. This is the same concept. By passing urine frequently, you reduce your chance of getting urinary tract infection. So,
Ekoba se obi enya ensunsuanso wo prostate yi mu a enema ebeda die ama wo hu se manya saa wo hawo bi. Ye di kan se ba bi a prostate na ewo no eno ankasa eche se obetime anya o hawo emse mdi ka che ba bi a ewo na ebra ye nyini no se prostate no ba asem a enya nsunsuanso titiriw ewo ye adwonso mu. Nti se obi enya saa o hawo no a ne odi kai ka ho asem eye dwonso mu eden na ewo dwonso no mu de edi kan pa ne se wo pese odwonso a se be ya dwonso no ebeba eno ye o hawo a edi kan afei enye se dwonso no ebeba enko a dwonso no a o dwonso no susu no dwonso no ahode ewo mu no esua ka se bia ye mabunu no se sebe mema no ye dwonso a yetimi dwonso ema no kosen afei otimu se di ahoden kra wo de dwonso no ne dwonso a eba no ohum se ahoden a ewo mu no esua afei yo bibi a friend se dribbling wa dwonso awie kra no so no ubon se ebi a sebe wa hye watade na dwonso no esanse ne nyina ntimi amaye no ubon se ne bi asoso watade no mu. Say ye de no to nchen a ye will be a friend say frequency and urgency. Frequency no so anything say Johnson de wo entoaso anase ententem. Adenti na Johnson no de wo ententem. Ye di ka che say prostate no wo ye Johnson twa no ase. Enti ebra ye kese no na ka ye Johnson twa no emoa. Ye Johnson twa so na ye sabe okuaba wo nipadua no mu. Ye gina dwonso ewom kosi se kwan bebie ana ye benya nkate ese pese ye kodwonso na kwan na bie ni adwonso nti se prostate no ye kese a na eka dwonso twa no emoa no na ama dwonso twa no dwonso dodo anka betimi atena mu no eso ate nti kakra bi ba mu a na wote nka se dwonso edewo eno ni frequency no ba dwonso ntentem afi agency no so ne se dwonso no di wa na adedero ana se edi wa na duru se ese se wo ye ntem so wa nye ntem kakra bi na eno ankasa eba enti eno no afei anadwo koda be ma won se wo be sori mpem bebre se wo ba na afei wo begu ensuo eno achi nso se wugu nsuo wi a wunya sensation bi na wunya nkate bi se Johnson no nya ne nyina na wa Johnson awie no wa wote nka se ebi akam afei baby a wonu sunti na ema etoda wote yawo ewo sebe wa yase kakra afei ye baby nso ya friend say retention ne say esan say prostate na aya kese no Druben bi da Johnson Piano befa prostate nfimfini ba prostate no saa druben na ne benkum ne nifa esa ansa aya kese ni ntina aka saa druben na amoa enti se ekoba se eka moa dendenden a Johnson no ntimi mma afei na Johnson na tai Johnson Piano mu se etamu na broso a na afei Johnson no a epe ba bi afa na esa konachi akọ baby a efiri bae no ene no the friend say retention no afei say dem kan no beti yaw kakra afei utai nya infection ewo baby a ya Johnson efa no so moma yento aso doctor Sarfo Kwarteng.
What would happen if you do present to your doctor with prostate-related issue? Okay, there are essentially 4 modes or 4 means in which we can assess you for a prostate-related issue. So one is doing routine blood tests. So routine blood tests can show if there's an infection, whether there's an issue with your kidneys because the urine has nowhere to go. We can do specific tests such as the prostate-specific antigen. Now, the prostate releases chemicals, which is the prostate-specific antigen, also shortly known as PSA. And when it releases these chemicals, it can be picked up in the blood. Okay, so if it's picked up in the blood, especially in the higher quantities, it can then point towards a prostate-related issue. The unfortunate thing with this particular blood test is that a lot of things actually increases its numbers. So simply having sex and ejaculating can actually cause your PSA to rise up. Simple activities such as riding a bike or even riding a horse can also increase your prostate or your prostate-specific antigen levels as well. And also if you have any other sort of prostate-related procedures, this can also cause your PSA to rise. So it's always important to remember that just because you have a risen PSA doesn't necessarily mean that there's a prostate-related issue or prostate cancer or something that we need to be worried about. So always bear that in mind that other things can also cause a prostate rise in a prostate-specific antigen, including things such as urinary tract infection. So if you have a UTI in male, you can also have a raised PSA. Now, the third thing that a doctor can do, which is what we class as an invasive thing to do or an invasive procedure, is what we call a Rectum Exam or DRE or PR exam. Now, this simply means that we take a finger, the doctor will take his finger, put a bit of gel or lubricant over it, and he will place it in your back passage. So one finger in your back passage. Now, as you can see in the picture demonstrated on the screen, the aim of the doctor is essentially to feel around the prostate. Now, by feeling around the prostate, it gives him an indication of the size of the prostate, as well as the shape of the prostate. This gives a lot of information as to what is possibly causing your symptom. So if you have these symptoms that we mentioned before, but your prostate is of a normal size and a normal shape, then we're not particularly worried to say that that is the cause. We will now start looking into different things. However, if the doctor does have a feel and the prostate is in fact enlarged or is irregular in shape, then we might consider further imaging, which is the next point, which is imaging. We can do an imaging scan, which there are various types out there. I won't bore you with the details now, but there are other ways in which we can visualize the prostate itself. But the simple things that we can do by the bedside include the rectum exam, which is the placing one finger up the backside, prostate-specific antigen, which is a blood test, and other routine blood test as well. Okay.
So obi enya ana obi susu se wenya wo haw ya eye sa prostate ana ho aba asem na o de kɔ ayaresabia eniama nan bi na a doctor fo no begina so ahwehwɛ se sa nipa no wenya sa ɔhaw no bia de edikan ene se ye betwe moja na ya hwɛ se ɔhaw bi abamu ana eno na edikan afi ye obi bia a friend say PSA ana say prostate specific antigen eno ene se Antigen na bibi a prostate no na eyo. Nti yebetwe ahwe se wo antigen na ewo soro dodo a na kye se ohaw ya aba anase ohaw aba o prostate no mu. Nanso eno kra no etoda a yebetwe ahwe no na antigen no wo soro. Nanso na ohaw nim efise niam bi nso tumi de saa bibi ete saa nso etumi ba. Eniam bi ete se edien sabi enhyiamudie kura no etimi rezi saa antigen level no afei wo de eno to enchen so a se obi etwi sakre kura nso so no eno no etumi ema ekosoro ana se bia obi tipon so ene niam ahodo bi enti eno nko a se ekosoro no entimi nyina so nka se wanya ohaw ewo o prostate no emu. Afei de toso miensa aduyafo se wo hwemfonyina na eda so a ene se wo de obehye hand gloves na wo de gel afa ne nsa ho na wo de ne nsa tia sebe ne nsa tia baako sebe na wo de ahye wo to kwan no apia so de akọ te se de wo hwemfonyina eda so no a na wo apia so de kọ wo de awura wo to kọ sebe ekọ kosise ne nsa bekọ akọka saa prostate no. Se wo don sa fa wo sabi ye chi kwan no a mre se won sa akọ prostate no de woduyafo no o ye ne se ordinance ka prostate no na wa hwe se de dika ne shape no eye sa pepepe ne etoso mienu aye kese ana se wo hwe na se prostate no eye sa pepepe na enye kese a na e che se ohaw bia enim na mum so wo hwe na se ensakraya basa de esitie no mu a afei na esese anamo a etoso nan no eye imaging na ese ohwe ema yeto aso ye nhwehwemu se bia ebetwa scan ene niam bia ose won pese ode be ha adwin sesei na ya hwehwemu se wo prostate no ho aba asem ana yebetumi ato aso.
So there are two conditions that I want you to be aware of when it comes to the prostate. One is cancerous and one is non-cancerous. Okay, so we have the benign prostatic hyperplasia. So it's a big, massive word. Medics love massive words, but let's keep it simple. Benign means non-cancerous or non-cancer causing. Prostatic means it's relating to the prostate, and hyperplasia is essentially a fancy word to say that that particular structure or that particular organ is enlarged. So putting it all together, we have a non-cancerous enlargement of the prostate. Okay, so when you ever hear benign prostatic hyperplasia, or even the doctor might shorten it and call it BPH, this is essentially referring to a normal or non-cancerous enlargement of the prostate. On the contrary, we have what we call what we call prostate cancer, which is quite well known to our community. So when you hear cancers, usually alarm bells ring, but I need you to be aware of both of these issues. So let's start off with benign prostatic hyperplasia. So as I said before, benign prostatic hyperplasia is a non-cancerous condition, and here the simple case is that the prostate gets bigger. Okay, so we have normal cells, but they're increasing in numbers, okay, causing the size of the prostate itself to enlarge. So remember I said that the prostate is usually a walnut shape, okay, so I don't know why I've done that, but walnut is usually smaller, okay. Now the prostate, in the benign prostatic hyperplasia, the size can increase even further. So as you can see the picture there, we have a normal prostate compared to a prostate with BPH. So all of the cells are normal, it's just that there are more of them, causing the size to be bigger. Now, of course, this is going to cause a lot of the symptoms that we've mentioned before. So as you can see, the bladder has been squashed, so it's reduced in size. So that's number one, meaning that there's going to be less volume or less amount of urine kept in the bladder. Number two, you can see that is stopped or squashed off the outlet or where the urine passes. So again, individuals might not be able to pass urine, or if they are passing urine, there will be difficulty in doing so. So they have to strain, they have to push in order to get even a few dribbles of urine out. Okay. And of course, if it gets to the stage where the urine is completely shut off, what would happen is that it builds up and builds up and builds up in the bladder. And eventually you get this severe discomfort, knowing that you are full of urine in your bladder, but you can't go. So we call this urinary retention. You're retaining urine in your bladder. Okay. Now, of course, the examinations that we would carry out are all of the ones I've mentioned before, including blood, PSA, the PR exam, which is very, very key here, because when the doctor places his finger, a finger up the backside, you'll be able to tell that the size has enlarged, okay? And the key thing with benign prostatic hyperplasia, because it's non-cancerous, usually the shape is also smooth and regular, okay? So smooth and regular shape or outline of the prostate when the doctor does the PR exam. And of course, the doctor can do further imaging. Now, what happens when you have been identified to have a benign prostatic hyperplasia? So essentially, it all depends on the severity. So if you were an individual who is going about their days and this particular issue is not really stressing you out, it's not causing problems, you're able to pass urine fairly okay, and it's something that you can sleep with and you're completely okay, then usually what the doctor would do would adopt a watch and wait approach, which is essentially he will watch to see if the size gets bigger, if your symptoms get worse. So you won't necessarily do anything. Okay. The next alternative would be to give you medication. So your doctor, he or she, will give you medication to reduce the size of the prostate back to its normal size. Okay. So by doing so, it allows you to pass urine more frequently or easier, and you will have less of the symptoms that we've mentioned before. If this unfortunately doesn't work, there is also the option of surgery. So as you can see in the picture in the top right-hand side, essentially what we do as doctors is that we go in and we basically carve up or carve out piece of that prostate. Okay. Now, by carving out a piece of that prostate, it provides an entry or provides a route for which the urine can then pass, and therefore relieves you of your symptoms. Okay, but these all have side effects, and these are things that you need to discuss with your clinician or with your family doctor or with your GP. Okay, so it's a balance of risk and benefit, right? So remember, all of the management plans depend on the severity. If you're not really having any issues, a watch and wait. Otherwise, it's usually medication or then surgery.
Tibia mienu ena ebetumi aba se ye prostate na aya kese no ebekomu. De edi kan no eno na friend say benign prostate hyperplasia. What is benign? Say ye cancer ho asem na ye ka say we benign tumor. Che say eye tumor enye cancer. Enye cancer. Prostate na ye kese na enso enye cancer ena aye wo. Ena enya dia spread yakọ baby foforo te said the cancer ba etimi yom ena afa nsusu ye wo cancer ankasa nsusu eno nsusu eho asem enso ye sonko yenka de edi kan no ba enye cancer no a eye benign prostate hyperplasia no eno no chese wo prostate no aye kese na eye kese a ebetumi aba se eniem nsankyerene dia eboboso ni nyina no obetumi enya bi obetumi afa ni nyina emu na doctor fo no efriu hwe se de mekire mu no na wo mo hu se enye cancer na emom wade na aye kese a eden ena ombeyo de ombeyo no begina se de oha no asi adidiwu ana adi wunya akoduro ana be kire de doctor fo no esese wo moyo de edi kan na se eni unya na ebia utumi gbo ubra sabe udunso mo how bia ni ho wonte ya wo ba bia de ombe ne se omo dia afutuo bi abema wo na o ma ye bibia your friend say watch and wait na o mo hwe watch and wait ni che say o mo hwe o mo ani di wachi na ye hwe se de nsunsuanso no besi akọ se nyame boa na wo to wo afutuo ni akwanche de bema wo no a eno ano no se eno anye ye nsusu a ene na ye say ye ma wo aduro ye ma wo aduro a ebetumi ama wo prostate na aye kese no ebetwe na aba te se de esese etie se ekoba se nimienu nu nyina nso so anye yedi a na esese ebia ye operation de etie ne se ekoba se aka twom na Johnson no entimi ma se dem di kan no bibia friends retention afide na Johnson no yesese nke pie na ba abonten no esan se kwan na asie ni ntino se wo hwe mfonyi a wode to so kane na wo se ya Johnson twa na se no ho na prostate na wo fanifa aka droben no a ye Johnson afamu no atwom ma entumi ma eno na se aduyefo no hwe kwan a ombefa so a Johnson no betimi afa so aba abonten ebetuma ba se esese ye de nsa kan na ye ho bibi nanso se de etie bia no se de wo haw no tie no na be kire ekwan a esese aduyefo no de wo efa so enti yento aso.
So let's move on to the big bad wolf, and that is prostate cancer. So prostate cancer is a massive issue, and it's a massive issue because one is cancerous, meaning that it's a cancer essentially. Number two, it can present quite late. So prostate cancer can actually go undetected because it doesn't always provide or present with symptoms. And essentially, these individuals will present late with the disease, where unfortunately the cancer would have spread to various parts of the body, including the bone, the abdomen, and various other areas as well. So the key thing to remember here is that one is cancerous, and number two is a buildup of abnormal cells. Now, the abnormal cells, as you can see from the picture that I've added, the abnormal cell isn't necessarily the whole of the prostate. It could just be purely one section. So it can easily be missed, because if it's only affecting one section, it won't necessarily cause that squishing effect on your on the pipes that come from the bladder outwards. So you might not necessarily get these symptoms. So it can present late, and remember, it's not always an increase in the size of the prostate itself. It's usually as a result of individual abnormal cells scattered throughout the prostate, which can then spread to various parts of the body. And again, the same symptoms as before, but the key thing to remember is that you can get blood in your urine, you can get blood when you ejaculate, there'll be loss in weight, there'll be appetite loss, tiredness, and even erectile dysfunction. So this is when you're unable to maintain an erection, okay? So all of these are things that can happen in addition to the many other symptoms that we mentioned before. So it's always important that when you notice these things, please do not wait. There is no benefit in you waiting. It's always best to at least see a doctor, confirm that this is okay, there isn't an issue, so you can sleep well, rather than waiting thinking that it's absolutely normal. So that is prostate cancer. And the key thing to remember is that people can actually get other symptoms such as bone pain, belly pain, or changes in their bowels, because the cancer itself can spread to other places.
Yaka die o prostate na ya kese nenso enye cancer. Se die cancer. Na die ma ha adwene se cancer na etoda kra na nsankyerene di a ebemo wo hu no na anyi ne ho adi. Enti wani beba ho so no na edidi ekọ akiri kakra. Na etimi etretre efri ba bi ewo no eka nipadua akwa ahodo no bi ete se ye nompe ene nipa ye yefunu ene niema atwa ahia wo ho no ebeye dan ena ye hu se nipa yi wanya cancer no bi na ebi mpo a adidi no ho so obinya cancer eniema ye keka ye edi kan ne nyina no obetumi anya bi ansa no wanya de ye bekan so aka ho bi ebi ne de ɛne sɛ ebi ɔbɛdwo nsɔ no sɛbi na mogya wom afei ebi koraa no a na nyɛ dwonsɔnko sɛbi na ho sane koraa no wobohu na mogya wom afei wobohu sɛ woso timete prɛko afei wanum koraa nso so ɛnyɛ wo da bia na wanum atɔ afei bere bia nso na wayɛ mmerɛ afei sɛdeɛ wɔn bɛka sɛ erectile dysfunction sɛdeɛ sɛ wo bɛma no esi gyina so na ɛyɛ adwuma no wobohu sɛ ɛnyɛ nsunsuanso wɔ so a ntimi ɛnyɛ saa adwuma no biem ntimi nyina so nkyɛ na hoɔden no nso so ɛso ate saa nsɛnkyerɛnne deɛ wei nyinaa no so obinya cancer a ɛbɛtumi aba akɔka nea yɛdi kae ɛbobɔ soɔ no ho afei biem wobɛhu sɛ onompe mu nso so ɛyɛ wo ya na ɛbɛtumi aba sɛ wo yafunu ɛne mpo kwan a wofa so egya wo nan no ɛno so koraa na ebi a ɛno so so asesa yɛhunu saa nneɛma wɔ enum nyinaa ɛsɛ sɛ yɛtu mmirika ne yɛ adɔkotafoɔ edi ho nkita ho kakakra bi ne yɛwie.
So I'm nearly coming to the end. So now the question is, what can I do as an individual to reduce my risk of prostate disease? Okay, so of course you need to be aware that prostate disease is very prominent in the Black community. So once you're aware of that, keeping that in your mind and making sure you're making daily choices to reduce your risk. So number one, choose a healthy diet full of fruits and vegetables. So I know that in our community, in our culture, a lot of our food is high in fat, a lot of our food is high in red meat and so forth. But making that drastic change to reduce the amount of red meat, the amount of sugars, salt, and eating fruits, vegetables, whole grains, nuts. These are the things that improve your health. It also reduces the risk factors for prostate cancer. Okay, so you've heard all of these before. It's just putting them into practice. Number two, eating healthy food, as we mentioned. So swapping white bread for brown bread, brown meat for white meat. All of these small changes increases or reduces your risk of cancer. And of course, exercise, even if it's a brisk walk, not necessarily going to the gym and lifting weights, even simple exercise such as walking, going for a swim, going for a jog, these things, doing it on a regular basis does help your body. Okay, and of course, maintaining a heavy and healthy weight. Remember, you need to first identify that you are actually overweight or your weight is not where it should be. So using things such as the BMI to identify whether you're overweight and reducing that weight, not drastically, but something over a period of time. And the last but not least, if you have a family history of any prostate-related issues, I would advise you and encourage you to speak to your GP, speak to your family doctor to inform them of this risk so that they can, keep an eye on you, carry out some regular checks. There isn't a current, essentially screening scheme available for men over certain periods, but making sure that your doctor is aware is very, very important, as they will include that in their differentials if you come up with a bunch of symptoms. Okay.
Kasa den na eseseme ya na metumi ayo ede abo me nkwa ho ban afri saa yade yi ehun nia edi kan a esese yete ase ene se yen titru ye bibifuo yi no yemfa nhye ya adwen mu se yade no eben yen abibifuo yi se de ye hye ase edi kan kire mu se wo hwe mu anipa nan bia no na baako anya bi eche se eben yen esan se ben yen ti no esese bibiara ye anamon bi a ye tuo agyina bi a ye si no ye dwene no ka ho se ye bribi a ebema ye nya apomoden eden na ye beyo de di kan ye ni aduane a apomoden ewo mu titru eye atosode ene enuaba yen akamfo no ana ye ye bibifo no ye ni ano no akoye enammo ene asikyire ne enkyene saa nneɛma no ɛsɛ yɛhwɛ ne yie na yɛte so na yɛni nnuane a ɛyɛ atosodeɛ no dodo ɛne nnuaba no ɛdodo ne ɛtɔ so mmienu afei nnuane a ya processing nnuane fufuo no bibi te say pan fufuo no pan fita yesesa no ekodi pan no a na ho de nyina wo mu no a ebeboa enam kokko mojanam no yesesa no edibe fa white meat a eno so ebeboa yenhwe yedidie ye yensesa eniema mu kakra afa yeni nnuane a bron beka say ye whole chese yenso ho na ho de nyina ewom na yedi a yenya ahode ese nya no afa ade ba ko a ehu hia ene apom tenetene say betimi atenetene yapom ebia yentimi nko gym nanso se yede si ene so se daku bia ebe nante se yede tenetene yapom bese sima kakra memfa se sima aduasa kosi donhwere ba ko no da bia eno beboa yen eniema jogging yetutu mrika se ebiare nsuo mu ene bibia yebetumi aye bia no yapom tenetene na ebeboa yen nia eto so a eno so ehu hia ne se bonbeka se maintain a healthy weight hwe se omunye du emoro so da bia obehwe se omuduro no eye onye kese sabi omoro so efi se so oye kese buru so a na aye mre se obenya oha ahodo ebi ti se de yesua eho ade nanso wo hwe se onye kese emoro so no enche se kofa duro bi nom na nansa na wo so ateprekope da bi yemfa yen dada asetena ene niema ye paw no adidie no onum ne exercise ye ka ho asemi no yenye no kosi se ye behu se ye so ate afo ya de ba ko a ehu hia na esese ye hwe ni ye ene se wo se wo fie ni wabusua mu no saa o haw no bi wo ho a ene o doctor eni ho enkomo na obema na ni ekun ho ekun wo ho na wahwe wo ntoaso nese yade no eyi ne ti a atumi omo atimi aso ano entem we ne de anwumre onyame de mayen mo somfo so nkwanta bisa medamo ase ma monitie ese onyame se onso yemu na afutu odi mayen yamfanya adwuma na afei waboa am yaboa ho ban na yahwe yenkwa so afri niema etisei ewo Yesu Kristo din mu amen.
Okay, so there are a few things that you can do to improve your risk of getting cancers or prostate-related issues. So I really do hope that you have gained something valuable from today. I know it's short, but I'm keeping it short and sweet. And please, if you do have any questions, please do put it, whether in the group chats, whether in the wherever you're seeing this, whether social media, passing on to the organizers, and I'll be more than happy to answer these questions. Once again, thank you very much for taking time out to listen to me. And I do pray that you have a wonderful evening and that you put into practice what we have discussed today. Have a blessed day. Good night.